conservatives just have an answer for everything, don't they? You know, I'm on this Facebook chat, and, somebody else made the topic about how, the right is making Margaret Thatcher out to be a cross-dressing Ronald Reagan. Like, she's a freedom fighter. Really? For who? And what freedoms has Margaret Thatcher contributed to? And, it's easy to call somebody a freedom fighter. It's easy to say you have freedom. But how is this freedom defined? What freedoms do you really have? Freedom can be, different to different people, of course. But, in all honesty, what freedoms do you have? How would you define them, and how much would you say you have of it? And people can't answer that question. Because to answer that question would mean no, you don't have a whole lot of freedom, either socially or economically. Let's look at the economic side, since we're talking about conservatives here. They say that we need a free capitalist society because that's how people achieve what they really want to achieve. Really? So, people flipping burgers at McDonald's want to be there, especially the ones that went to college for something else. Does that sound like they're achieving their goals in life? Does that sound fulfilling? Does that sound freedom to you? And then on top of that, of course, a conservative talks out of his ass. Well, if you majored in feminist studies or whatever, I don't feel sorry for you. Who actually does that? Most people go to college for something tangible. Might not necessarily be a high-demand job, but it's something constructive. Most people go to college to learn to become a scientist of some sort, a doctor, an attorney, things like that. But you're not going to get anywhere in life without money already in your pocket. You have to come from a rich background or be extremely lucky in order to achieve anything of remote value. That's what it's like in a capitalist society. How can you call that free? How can you even say that people have these opportunities to do the things they like to do if they never do them? So, if you were to live in a society that did not have the concept of ownership and people just did their job, what would stop these people from doing these things? The only argument you could make would be forced labor, that there isn't enough people doing the right kinds of jobs. But even then, they're doing labor they don't want to do anyway within the capitalist mode of production. So, they may as well do forced labor that is for the good of society. This is starting to sound like, even at its worst, communism is still better capitalism. And, when I bring this up, and of course I told him I actually majored in physics. Not only do I do more in a day than he does in a month, but I think about more, and that's obvious with the fact of his political ideology. So then his only excuse can be, oh, you must have fucked up somehow if you're majoring in physics and yet, you're sitting at home or whatever. No, it's because I wasn't born into money. No matter how much knowledge I have, knowledge does not grant you status. I can know a lot of shit, but people aren't necessarily going to listen, and even if people do listen, it does not necessitate that I have more monetary gain, because there is a gap there. There is a huge gap between what somebody knows, what somebody can put into practice, and if that practice has any evidence of providing wealth back to that person. So, no, there's no connection whatsoever. There are many people more intelligent than myself that are in even worse positions. And, they just ignore that fact. They don't care. They treat everyone that is not rich as a failure, as a loser, as a drug addict, or something of that caliber. And how can you live your life in such a fantasy world that the only reason people are poor is because they're stupid or lazy, or that the only reason why shit is bad is because of Obama, or because of the socialists, even though we have no socialism? As time goes on, they are privatizing more and more. They are cutting spending more and more. There is less state regulation, there is less state provisions, there is less everything for the common man, but yet somehow it's still the socialist's fault. Because there's still that tiny spark that some people believe in socialism, and that's what's holding us back. Really? That's freaking ridiculous. The entire concept of conservative ideology is ridiculous, and it's killing us. It's literally killing us. And we put up with it. We wouldn't put up with someone putting a gun to our head, but we'll do it if it's in a more metaphorical sense. If it's an invisible gun that kills us over the course of years, when we can't afford food or health care, can't afford a good education, can't get anywhere in life, we're willing to deal with that kind of gun. But we're not willing to deal with the kind of gun that just outright shoots us. That's the kind of mentality most human beings have. And that's why we're in the position we're in. That's why sociopaths do the best in society. Because they're good at wielding the invisible guns. Most of the gangbangers, most of the people in prison are not sociopaths. They don't even know the concept of the invisible gun. They just know that they want something and they're willing to use a gun to get what they want, but they are not manipulative enough. They were not born into a rich enough background, and they are certainly not tenacious enough to go about invoking the invisible gun to get those things and to keep them. That's why a lot of times drug dealers and shit just look like normal people, because they are normal people. Their money is finite. They do not have control of the means of production. They might have a little more money in the short term because drugs make a lot of money, but in reality, they are not the bourgeois. The bourgeois is something in itself. It is something particular, just like moderators. And this particular thing is a protected class. And as a protected class, nothing's going to be done about it until people just do something about it. But nobody wants to listen. Even as they have trouble affording anything, even as they go the rest of their lives unfulfilled and hopeless, disappointed and bitter, they won't do anything. It doesn't matter the amount of suffering that befalls them. It doesn't matter the amount of suffering that befalls their friends and family. They won't do a damn thing. But they're so goddamn worried about that real physical gun that may or may not shoot them at some point in time. We need more laws to protect us from criminals, from mass murderers and shit. Even though this is only a reaction to the ill society that we live in. These things would not exist if the invisible gun didn't exist. So, if you want gun control, control the invisible gun, not the tangible one.